We have our buddy Brent Bozell, founder, CEO of Media Research Center, Newsbusters. Brent, what do you make of the media now acting like they're innocent, like they're analysts, like they're objective? The violence is just growing and growing, and their contribution to it is massive. It's major. And then they give us lectures about what's happening to the country, or they start pointing the finger at Trump and the Republic. They're never going to learn, are they?
No, and let's start here, Mark. First, enough of the lectures from President Biden. I thought his performance, and it was a performance, the other night was disgraceful. I don't need lectures from him. It's not conservatives who are doing this. It is he and his allies who are doing this. And so, physician, heal thyself before any lectures are given. Okay, on to the media. This is a consequence. I want to go back in history a little bit, Mark, and I think you're going to appreciate this. In 2005, we had the Oklahoma City bombings. The Murrah building was blown up in Oklahoma City. So many people died. After that bombing, Brian Gumbel went on the air on NBC and blamed Rush Limbaugh by name. Talked about his responsibility. That was echoed by Bob Schieffer on CBS. That was echoed by Sam Donaldson on ABC. That was echoed by David Broder in the Washington Post. So did the LA Times. The best one came from Time Magazine. They called conservative talk radio, your industry, the unindicted co-conspirators in that terrorist attack. Okay, Mark Levin, if that is good for the goose, how about this for the gander? I accuse them now of being co-conspirators in the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I accuse them of fomenting such hatred in America that somebody finally acted on the untold numbers of accusations that democracy was coming to an end under this faux Adolf Hitler, Donald Trump. I accuse them now of being unindicted co-conspirators.
And they'll say, you have no evidence to tie this killer to them. But they create an environment of hate, an environment of violence, and it's been going on, and it just gets more and more and more intensified, does it not?
No, it's very true. And look, conservatives, there's a lot of angst that conservatives have about Joe Biden and the far left. But on your radio show, you don't entertain the kind of discussions you hear on Joe Scarborough's show every day. Isn't it telling, Mark? Isn't it telling that MSNBC could not trust its own anchors this morning to have them on the air? They couldn't trust Joe Scarborough and Mika not to say something that was purely incendiary. They couldn't trust their own staff. What does that tell you about how out of control the media have gotten?
My problem here, though, and I'm sure it's yours as well, they don't do anything about it. I mean, MSNBC is owned by Comcast. CNN is owned by, the hell was it? Warner Brothers, I believe. Whatever it is.
Yep.
These executives, they have boards of directors, they have investors, they have staff and so forth. I mean, Joy Reid has been calling Donald Trump Hitler incessantly for years, including about 10 days ago. And there she is. She's in prime time.
Yes. Nothing's
done. Nobody's fired.
No, these corporate boards, look, I'm going to say the same thing about them. I'm not going to play nice on this one. They're also unindicted co-conspirators in this. They also allowed this to happen. The news media is the only industry I know of where management does not control its employees. The management, the owners of these corporations have no interest in controlling their news outlets whatsoever. Okay, if that's fine, then take responsibility for what happens thereafter. And here it is. I would say to the Comcast and all these companies, you share in this responsibility. You share in the responsibility of so poisoning the political landscape that somebody acted on it and came within a fraction of a centimeter of blowing President Trump's head off.
So frightening. And they don't.
It is. And Mark, yeah. Is it over? Is it over? Is it going to stop? No.
You're right.
These people have such a hatred for this man. It's not going to stop. They're going to catch their words for a few days, but I guarantee you within a couple of weeks, they'll be right back where they dropped off.
Look, J.D. Vance wasn't my first choice, but he's a good man. He'll do fine. The fact is, Donald Trump can pick whomever he wants. He's a juggernaut, right? Don't you agree with that? It really almost doesn't matter in that respect. Okay, fine. They're trashing him personally tonight, the media. Trashing him personally. Oh, he's going to be, basically, he's going to be the negative guy, the hitman for Trump. Oh, look what he said about Trump. Well, look what Kamala Harris said about Biden. So they take things that are actually in politics typical. They try and make them extraordinary. And now they're trashing this guy left and right. They don't want to debate on ideas and issues. They never do they, Brent Bozell?
No, I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem with them playing hardball with J.D. Vance or any other VP choice on the Republican side, so long as they executed their jobs in the exact same way when it came to the Democrats, which they won't do. I can't recall a single tough story ever done on Kamala Harris when she was running for president. I can't recall a single tough story about Joe Biden when he was the VP nominee.
How about Obama? Tom Winter, NBC News. Maybe the shooter might have targeted Trump for not being conservative enough. Frank Figliuzzi, whatever. Also NBC national security analyst. If you'll have protesters in Milwaukee with presumably people who are anti-Trump, can you imagine people who think in their head the answer is to seek revenge for today's events? Margaret Brennan, Samantha Vinograd, foreign policy commentator, CBS News Saturday, to worry about right-wing retaliatory violence. So they don't report, Brent Bozell, on what's in front of their eyes, what they're hearing with their ears, what's taking place, the news. They always have to put some left-wing spin on it. They can't just tell us what's taking place and how it's taking place. Isn't that about the way this media work now?
Yeah, I was watching ABC, changing channels. That's the only reason I was watching it. But I came across the conversation between George Stephanopoulos and Martha Raddatz, and they're analyzing the situation in a deep elitist way. And she said with that smarmy elitist voice of hers, well, I'm paraphrasing, well, let's look at some of the things that Donald Trump has said. And they start pulling quotes, which their research department has quickly pulled out for them, for things that Donald Trump has said that were of a caustic nature, including the statement about the bloodbath, which Martha Raddatz knew full well, and George Stephanopoulos knew full well they were taking it out of context. They knew full well they were doing this. And at the end of it, reading off all these quotes, what was she saying? She was saying, Mark, on national television, she didn't say it, but her statement was he had it coming. She was blaming him for what happened. So she was saying this man had an attempted assassination coming to him. If that isn't, Mark, if that isn't hatred, what is hatred? I don't understand it.
Does anybody really believe, Brent Bozell, that their hate for Trump and his supporters have changed? Does anybody really believe these people are circumspect? Look how they lied about Biden's senility, his dementia. And now on a dime, they're absolutely silent about it. Not one word. Instead, now he's the poser for unity. He's never been a man of unity. He was a man of the segregation and racism. He's been a man who has said and done virtually anything for personal profit and power. But these people aren't going to change in any respect, are they?
No, and what's going to happen is this. When Biden goes on the campaign trail, he is going to go back to his old nasty Joe self. He is a nasty politician. No one's going to call him out for it, but every reporter out there is going to be following every single word that Donald Trump says. And the moment they can hit the record button with him saying anything of a confrontational manner is going to be national news. Here he goes again. This is why it happened. So they're going to be in damage mode. They're in spin control mode for themselves. And I don't know that the media ever have been in this position where the country is looking at them and pointing a finger at them. I don't think this has ever happened before, Mark. So they are going to go out of their way to try to deflect and blame it back on Trump.
We had a lecture also from Jake Tapper yesterday, who's trashed Netanyahu, trashes Israel, trashes Trump, has said some of the most heinous things about Trump and MAGA supporters, was a long lineage of Democrat Party activism. And there's something troubling in the American soul. They project onto the American people. They project. Of course there's evil out there. There's always been evil out there. That's why you and I support law enforcement and the rule of law and a real justice system, not Soros prosecutors. But putting that aside, like Biden, they take no responsibility or accountability for any of the vile, hateful crap that comes out of their mouths.
No, this is the arrogance. This is the arrogance of the blue blood, silver spoon, Ivy League elites who do believe that they have every right to say everything they have to say and they want to say, but are accountable for nothing that happens as a consequence of their actions. They played this deflection game forever and ever and ever, but now there's a bullet that almost took a man's head off. And that, and there has to be this national conversation about the responsibilities that the media have for these actions, for so poisoning the public conversation today that somebody, and Mark, how do we know it's not going to happen again? How do we know that somebody is, look, Mark, let me say something that is a dirty little secret we all know. There were millions upon millions of people who said 2 days ago, if only that bullet had been 1 inch to the right. And you know it, and I know it. That is exactly what they're thinking.
You're right. You are right. Remember when Gabby Giffords was shot and the judge was killed and others were shot, how quickly they tried to blame Sarah Palin, Michael Savage, and me? I'm going, me?
Yes.
The hell did I have to do with this? But especially Sarah Palin, because the ads she had with a target that had nothing to do with targeting anybody.
Right. And it turns out that the person who shot the congressman was a left winger.
Was a radical left wing kook.
Yes. Where was the responsibility placed on Democrats for that? Where was the responsibility placed on Democrats for the Scalise shooting? Where was the responsibility placed on how about the SPLC for having their hate map and having somebody act on their hate map and take a gun and shoot a guard and try to kill the staff at the Family Research Council? Where's the national conversation on the responsibility of the left and the things that they're doing today? You don't have conservatives roaming the streets in cities like Antifa, attacking people. You don't have conservatives doing $1.2 billion worth of damage all over the country as they set America aflame in the summer of 2020. You don't have any of that taking place where conservatives are concerned. Liberals do it because they know the media will not hold them to account, because at the end of the day, they sympathize with it. They sympathize with the radical left in America. I hate to be so blunt about this on your show, Mark, but I feel that way. I feel very passionate about this tonight. There has to be an accounting.
Listen to Jamie Gangel, CNN correspondent, CNN yesterday, about Donald Trump when the Secret Service is moving him into the vehicle and he has his fist in the air and he says, "Fight, fight, fight. Cut 20, go."
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, "Fight, fight, fight." I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
Does this sound like somebody who is compassionate or sympathetic for what just took place? Brent Bozell. I mean, the man gets up, he's bleeding in the ear, he just missed being assassinated. He puts his fist into the air. He's trying to reassure the audience, his supporters, fight, fight, fight. In other words, don't allow this to stand, do your thing, vote, organize, that kind of thing. And it's like cold-blooded. I don't think that's the message we want to hear right now. That's sick.
Three magic words: hearing from people. She was hearing from people. The only people she was hearing from was her own production staff. If you talk to people who were in that audience, do you think a single person shared her sentiment in the thousands of people who were there? Nobody shared. They adored the fact that the president stood up. Mark, if Barack Obama had been had been a victim of an attempted assassination plot, and he had been nicked on the ear, and he'd gone down, and he'd gotten up and waved his fist and said, "Fight, fight, fight." Do you think that Jamie Gangel would be denouncing him?
No, they hate Trump. They just hate this man. It doesn't matter what he says and what he does, and I do agree that after a period of relative quiet, it'll all be back once again. And you're also right. They'll seize on something he says to say, see, he really didn't mean it. Nothing's changed. And then the brass knuckles are on again, led by the media. Yeah. All right, my friend.
Especially if you see the poll numbers. If the poll numbers move in the direction they don't want, they're not going to stop. They're going to come back.
And now, what do you think? You think they're going to stop for good, this stuff about Biden needs to go? I mean, they hit the brakes on this pretty hard, didn't they?
Well, look, I hate to be a Democrat today. I mean, what are they going to do? George Clooney's not going to... No, I'm simply saying that where Biden is concerned, that the Democrats are in a whole heap of trouble right now, because I think that they have, at the end of the day, I think they don't have an alternative to Joe Biden. That's been the problem all along. They don't have an alternative. And all the polling shows that everyone is testing even worse than he's testing. So you've got people who've abandoned him. They're not coming back. George Clooney's not going to make a fool of himself by coming back and say he was wrong. The donors are going to start writing out checks again. No, they have somewhat decapitated themselves, or at least they've shot themselves in the foot on this one, and they're in a mess. The Democratic Party's in a mess right now.
And the media too, because they're attached at the hip, correct?
So if you can't win by promoting Joe Biden, the only way to win is by taking down Donald Trump, and that's why they're not going to stop.
No, they're not going to stop. All right, my friend, thank you. God bless you, and hang in there.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right, be well.